today is continuation of interaction on the request sent to the National Assembly by Mr. President to borrow some money to finance some infrastructures, projects that are supposed to be carried out under this administration. You may recall, for the power sector, during the 2016-2018 midterm borrowing plan, approval was given to the power, Ministry of Power, of 5.2 billion, if I may not forget. And this time around, in the borrowing plan of 2018-2020, another request is sent to the National Assembly demanding for the approval of the National Assembly to allow African Development Bank and French Development Agency to provide a funding of 3.089 billion US dollars and additional 245 million euros to finance the following projects as far the submission. One, though the TCN was here already, we had an interaction with them. So for their areas, even if we mention it here, I don't think it's necessary for you to comment on it, unless otherwise our members may want to ask more details from the minister. So the first project here is Nigerian Transmission Expansion Project, NTIB-1, which is to cost 210 million US dollars. There is another one called Northern Corridor Transmission Project, which will cost 245 million euro. Another one is Nigeria Electrification Project off-grid, which is also going to cost 350 million US dollars, intended to get from the World Bank, then 200 million again from African Development Bank. There is a project of 330 kV DC North Core interconnection of Nigerian, Niger, Benin, Togo, Burkina Faso, which will also cost $29,300,000. The last one in the request is 2.3 billion, 2.3 billion US dollars, or 2.3 million US dollars, which is intended to be given by German consortium. So the total amount needed under this borrowing plan from Ministry of Power is $3.089 million. It is in this direction, and because of the fact that this request is referred to this committee, and it's our duty to interact with you to be able to know, to have more details on the money and the projects to be carried out with the money. That's why we decided to invite you here. During the interaction, I think after your brief, the members will ask questions for clear verification.
This opportunity to thank you for giving us this opportunity to come before you to brief you on what is before us. Mr. Chairman, this is another opportunity for me to also unveil myself and the permanent secretary, who happen to be are new in the ministry and meeting you for the first time from Ministry of Power. Although we have been around, I was at the Ministry of Works and Housing as the Minister of State before my elevation to Ministry of Power as the Minister. The Permanent Secretary said that a copy of the report was sent to the committee earlier, which we summarized just before we came here, and to 3 pages, where I have asked them to give you. For the purpose of this briefing, I would like to use the brief so that it will be easy for us to finish. And anything details, we can refer here, either here or as you may wish. So thank you once again. I also want to mention that in addressing any question that may come from you, I may from time to time ask one of them, that either the PAMSEC or the directors, to assist in addressing some of these concerns. So, and in case we may not have some details here with us, we may plead with you to allow us to come back with them as you may wish. Thank you very much. So this paper I'm holding starts, is tabulated. It starts with the Mambila project. That's the project title, and the cost is 5.8 billion. It's a counterpart from 4.8 is coming from that's 85% is coming from the Chinese Exim Bank, and 15% is coming from the Nigerian government. So, as you can see, we have not drawn anything yet from that project, except, of course, some of the things that we have taken care in the our regular appropriation through the budget to fund other preliminary works, like enumerations on land surveying, etc., which we have entered MOU with the Taraba State government, and the money has been disbursed to the Taraba State government for that purpose. And the amount is 985,450,978 naira 90 kobo. The other one under that column is the 244,333,100 naira, which was also disbursed to NAPTIM in order to train 500 youths on the catchment area, which is with the NAPTIM and is ongoing. So the essence of that training is it was earlier taught when we restarted the Mambila engagement. We thought everything was going on well. We would not have any encumbrances. But as it is now, you all know that there is a litigation on that project which made it impossible to proceed. So, but the training and the MOU that was entered with the Taraba state government is in anticipation of when the project kickstart. You will have skilled workers around that area. Our youth, you know that we are trying to always get them work to do. So this funding was done in order to train the youths on how to quickly get started as soon as the project is started. So unfortunately, we are yet to start the project, but we have already disbursed this money, and the training, I think, is going on or has almost done. It's going on. The training is ongoing. So this is number one on Mambila. But we are working so hard to ensure that we remove the encumbrances together with all stakeholders that are on it. So the second one is the Nigerian transmission project. I am glad that the TCN were here, and most of these projects are under the TCN. We only enter agreement, the main agreement with Ministry of Finance and the donor, or the TCN does the subsidiary agreement, and once the money comes, it goes to TCN and they execute these projects. So these projects are number two, transmission expansion project, MTEP, under African Development Bank loan. We have not drawn anything yet. Number three is also the enhancement and the upgrading of the transmission grid, which is also from African Development Agency, French Development Agency, I beg your pardon. It's also not drawn. Number four is the 330 kV North Core interconnection of Nigeria, Niger, Benin, Togo, Burkina Faso, under the World Bank loan, which is also not drawn. Then the TCN overall transmission enhancement project again under French Development Agency. The disbursement is 59.6%, and this project is at substations at Apo, Lafia, Kuje, Lokogoma substations. The details are in the main document here, earlier submitted to you. Then the next one is the Nigerian Electricity Asset Project, which is also under the World Bank. Disbursement has reached 16.9%. Is the supply of power transformers, accessories, plus rehabilitation, reinforcement of substations, which is also in the detail here, submitted to you on the page is the Grid Modernization and Expansion Program. This is the TPI project, or the CMAN project, which is a collaboration of Nigeria and the German government. And it's a $2.3 billion euro project. And the cement is ongoing. We are at the stage of preliminaries now. You know, sometimes once it is a new project, preliminaries takes time. And the preliminaries have two segments, the pre-engineering and the EPC. So the EPC is to be handled by the seamen, while the pre-engineering is being handled by Nigeria. And this involves the data gathering on the soil data, the right-of-way enumerations, and the environmental assessment, and things like that. To gather data, which is, the EPC is dependent on these preliminaries. So it has gone far. They have been procured, and it's being handled by a special purpose vehicle set up by the Federal Executive Council, and the chairman of the special purpose vehicle is the Minister of Finance. I am one of the members of the board with Minister for Works and the Minister for Justice, and a couple of others like the DG, BP, BPE, and then a management team was set up to drive the processes. So we held the third meeting of the SPV some 2-3 weeks ago, and we have approved some of the preliminary works, procurement. We are now at BPP, and we hope to get no objection to proceed with them. So, like I said, this stage takes time sometimes to accomplish. But as soon as we are able to finish these preliminaries, I think we will be firing on with the cement project. So, and the EPC, the cement have nominated the EPC. It is now being evaluated. Then we'll procure them, and then we'll proceed. So by like a couple of months to come, we'll start seeing the physical things on the ground regarding this project. So this is the situation here. So I thank you.
Hydroelectric power project. Now that you have started issuing out money to the state government and to another agency for the training of youth, I know it's just in line with trying to convince the people to allow you work. Have this main contract been signed? 1. 2, our contracts for those 4 or 3 items that are not yet, money are not yet drawn, signed? Are the contracts signed? These are my 2 questions. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Officer, my name is Honorable Lawal. I'm from Ogun State, and that will why I'll be asking this question because I seem to be, if it's not like that. When you were speaking now, sir, you mentioned the report on in respect of this power transmission project, 200 million from JICA, Japan International Cooperative Agency. You said nothing was being done on it. But even as we speak, has cash backing been approved for the 5.8 billion approved for the project affected persons, perhaps? That's one question, because we are aware that there was an approval for 5.8 billion for the PAPs. Then may we know there should be a timeline at least for the JICA's pledge. At least they pledge to give money, to give the loan. Is there any timeline for it? And then if there's timeline for it, is there a timeline for no objection also for you to comment the procurement process? The last question is that we understand that there's some litigation in the southeast of Nigeria. If there is, if that is true, we believe it could be stalling the implementation of the project. litigation strategy you have for out-of-court settlement that will make us not to lose that project? Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The next person to ask question is Honorable Kwe.
My name is Ademori Aliu Kuye. I represent Shomolu Federal Constituency. I'm from Lagos State. Honorable Ministers and the peers, I want you to speak to this Siemens $2.3 billion funding, which I believe is meant to do a total overhaul of our transmission and distribution system and to expand the power grid from the present 4 to 25. And if we already have this in place, why do we still need the African Development Fund loan when the Siemens contract is all-encompassing? That would be my first question. And then I want to find out that if we have actually I would have loved to put this 364 million power network capacity and efficiency to transmit and distribute. If you can do for us a highlight of the critical transmission network this money has funded, has been used for, and what impact has it made, despite this very massive and huge investment? Because we are all aware that in so many parts of the country, we still have problem with power supplies and all of that and distribution. The $200 million Japan International Cooperation Agency loan has been drawn down. If we got it,
somewhere because of all these encumbrances that I have mentioned. So after signing of the contract, yeah.
Sitting here, what are you doing here? Are you part of what?
Chairman, I was saying that the Mambila project was actually signed, but we couldn't move forward because of all these encumbrances that I have mentioned. The major one is the litigation at it was signed 2017, yeah, 2017. So now I think I've answered that question. Then the Honorable Kolawole, you have asked the project affected persons at one project. You see, once there is a project, nobody will anticipate that this project will not start in order to match the other works like early works, enumerations of right-of-way, the payment of compensations. They go hand in hand with the other process of trying to kickstart the project, just like the way I mentioned of Mambila. You know, we wouldn't know that Mambila will not start at when due. So we have to start all these other works. We have to get the site, we have to pay compensations, we have to do our own bit before the money comes. But unfortunately, and this applies to other projects like similar to this. So I believe this answers that question. The project affected persons, you were talking, they have been given compensations, there have been some money were given to them. Yes, we will do that through budgetary means in order to remove all encumbrances on the land, so that as soon as the project kickstarts, they will not have any issue on the ground. So then the litigation, you mentioned about litigations. Yes, this is not up to us alone. Some high-profile litigations are being handled by other stakeholders and who may be involved in the discussions, but clearly the AG is involved in some of these litigations. There are other ones that we handle within the ministries under our own purview. So Honorable Ademori, Lagos. Yes, Siemens, yeah. You see, you have asked whether all these other interventions that are coming on the grid, what is the relationship with the Siemens project? Since Siemens project is coming to modernize the whole grid. Yes, I agree with you. You see, those interventions predate the Siemens intervention. So by the time the Siemens comes, we have to harmonize all of them to avoid duplication. So all of them are targeted at the required places. When Siemens comes, they will not touch these areas. They will all be harmonized, and all the grid will come fresh. So there is no anywhere where Siemens will duplicate those interventions that predate the Siemens. Now you talked about the 364 million Nigerian Electricity Transition and Access Project. I have mentioned to you earlier that even the chairman said that you have received explanation from transmission, the TCN. So most of these things, like I said, we entered into the main agreement with finance and the donor. The subsidiary agreement were entered by the TCN. And once the drawdown comes, it goes straight to TCN. And TCN procure these projects and execute them. So this is how the relationship with TCN is. We only oversight them from time to time, but we have our own other things to deal with. So these ones, the chairman mentioned earlier that you have received explanation from TCN. But we have them here, the projects that are concerned in the main report on page 7, 8, and 9. Page 7, 8, and 9 speaks to this concern that you have raised. JICA project, I have mentioned on this that we have not drawn down anything on that JICA project, which is item 8, item 7. Item 7 is not yet effective. So this is that one? Yeah, okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I hope I have addressed all these concerns.
Chairman?
Abstract like this. Please allow me to come back to you with that.
You have so many that I will have. You didn't tell us that before.
Timeline
Thank you,
and
sir.
all this is something that I have to consult and get back to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representing Oluyole Federal Constituency in Oyo State. Mine is a concern. It's a question that's going to be related to a concern. I'm hearing about the West African Power Pool, and I'm of the opinion, and Nigerians are of the opinion, that we do not have excess power at the moment. So how can we be talking about the power pool, and what is going to be the impact of that power pool on the citizens of Nigeria and their access to power? The West African Power Pool and its implication on the people of Nigeria and their own access to power. And have we signed any international treaties across West Africa with regard to this?
Why we are so concerned is that today, I'm sure we are still struggling with about 5,000 megawatts for, or thereabouts. So what is the rationale, So that was the same concern that I had, that she also raised.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My respected colleagues, I'm Chris Azubo. Mr. Honorable Minister, I want to congratulate you for your appointment now, and I want to specifically go to key issues. All of us in the country are concerned about the borrowings without getting the same impact. I strongly believe that over-centralization of our power projects that leads to major collapse, because we are focusing more on transmission. Because after the privatization, we're focusing more on the key role of the ministry and TCN. And I'm happy the PAMSEC is here and the Director of Transmission is here. These key projects we want to borrow against, I want us to look at it. If there are ways we can reduce decentralization, because you're going to help the Mr. President to draw the power policy now, for us to focus more on decentralized power, especially managing gas to power, so that we can quickly scale up our production capacity in power. The last policy we use, energizing economy, went a whole lot of way to increase capacity, but it seems like we dropped it again, whereby we can do embedded power in most of the industrial clusters. I believe by Mr. President's project on AKK, once AKK comes alive, I think a lot of redundant or stranded power can come upstream because of gas supply. Yes, but major transmission projects we have challenge. And even the new projects like Mabila, the one in Niger, that we're all doing, they're all having issues. I will call that we review some of them. Even as we are trying to approve loans, let us review the projects, make sure that they're implementable, they can pay back, because loans are not free. Most of us are borrowing from China. China is having problems presently because of COVID and other things. The economy is getting at the stop, so we cannot over-depend on them. There are quick wins we must do to decentralize power and ensure that power gets to people. We are going to, renewable energy, fine. But for industrial power, the transition, we are going to focus more now is use gas. Gas is cleaner, easily accessible, so it's important that we focus on projects, especially under PPP, that will help us, that help us to expand our power generation and power and that's it. Thank you.
For your submission. Honorable Minister, sir, you and I may know the meaning of West African Power Pool, but to a layman out there, Nigeria, that we want to borrow, and it's huge, please, can you tell Nigerians what West African Power Pool is, so that we know? Layman out there, my constituents, they want to know what is it and what is the benefit if we have this. Then, do we have any policy document supporting this initiative before we go into it properly? Thank you, sir, Mr. Chairman.
answering Mr. Rotimi, the Honorable Rotimi, where he was asking about the interest against the drawdown. Honorable Rotimi, am I right? Who is, no, I am mistaking, Yes, Rotimi. Okay, you asked about drawdown and interest. I believe it is only when we start drawing down that interest will start. Yeah. So on Mambila, that's the question on Mambila. Then the other question was on the one you asked. I think you asked two questions. Because he wasn't very clear on the questions too when you were asking. That's why I got confused and tangled somewhere. Yes. So let me, what did it say? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So Honorable Chris, thank you for the congratulations for my upgrade to a substantive minister. And thank you very much for that. And by extension, I thank all of you. You asked about, you gave advice on so many things that are happening on the NESI, Nigerian Electricity Supply Industry, the complete power sector. You know, some of the responsibilities are outsourced to our partners, the GENCOs on one hand, then the DISCOs on the other. So what we have been doing is to try to bring confidence in the sector, confidence to our customers through good billing processes, and confidence to investors, so that a lot of investment may come into it. As we are here in the whole value chain, the generation capacity is up to 13, but we have given a study to KPNG, who came yesterday to brief me. Our actual capacity is more than that. So you have mentioned some embedded, some other. There are so many capacities that are not on the grid. So, but they are in Nigeria. We should say about them. They are off-grid. Let me give you a typical example. Even though it's a small intervention, the one in Federal Ministry of Works is about 1.52 megawatt, and is not connected to the national grid. So we have so many of that, big, all over the country. We have them. We can come up with that to you. And going back to my brother, Honorable, it's not that we are not ready. We came here since 1 o'clock on the dot. I was sitting here for close to 1 hour. That is to tell you I take this committee very serious. And I have a panel, Mr. Chairman, to address some of... so we can go. Oh, okay. So I should take a bow and go. Just...
we're here concerning the loans to be borrowed for the rail projects. Under the 2018-2020 external borrowing plan that was sent to the committee by Mr. President. And some of the projects that were highlighted for us to interact with this committee on were Lagos-Kano Railway Modernization Projects, looking at the Ibadan-Kano double track segments to the tune of 5,535,000,000 $533,289,310 to be funded or for us to get funds from China Exim Bank. And then the Nigerian Coastal Railway Projects, Lagos Benin segment, the tune of $3,141,984,852. Another segment on Nigerian Coastal Rail Project, Benin Onitsha, including Onitsha Railway Bridge Branch, $1,711,336,400. Then another segment, Benin Warri, Yanagwa Port Harcourt, still under the Nigerian Coastal Railway Project, $2,839,693,930. And then the last one, Nigerian Coastal Railway Project, Abuja Baro Itakpe Ajokuta segment, $3,902,267,260. This to come from Industrial and Commercial Bank of China. I just want to point out some observations from the request you sent to the ministry. The Abuja Baro Itakpe Ajokuta is not part of the coastal rail line. It is actually the central rail line, so that we just adjust that. That is the central rail line. And number five. So that is the central rail line, and it is to link Itakpe, Baro, Itakpe, yes, Baro, Lokoja, Abuja. That's the central rail line. You know we already have the Warri Itakpe rail line, which is already functional. So this central rail line is now to link Itakpe to Abuja. Okay. Yes. Excuse, sorry?
That project must be done very quickly.
Yes, the contract has actually been awarded by the Federal Executive Council.
That's not the question.
Okay, so thank you very much, sir. Number 2 to 4 is the composition of the coastal rail line. 2 to 4 is the composition of the coastal rail line. And this is one of the ones that Mr. President is seeking your approval for us to borrow to be able to execute the coastal rail line. I want to point out that number 1, the Ibadan-Kano segment, and the tune of 5.5 billion, has actually been approved in the 2016-2018 borrowing plan. So it's not one of the ones that is here. So that has been approved in the 2016-2018 borrowing plan. And the contract has been awarded. And the money is meant to be coming from China Exim Bank. And we are still hopeful that it will come from China Exim Bank. But we are all also aware of the challenges that the China Exim Bank has. And we hope that it will materialize for us to be able to complete the Lagos-Kano rail line, which is actually in 4 segments, 2 segments of which are already functioning, the Kaduna-Abuja, then the most recent one, the Lagos-Ibadan, and we're just about commencing on the Kaduna-Kano. A lot of back-end engineering work is already ongoing.
hoping that while we use our budgetary provision, the money to come from China Exim Bank will come for us to be able to fulfill and make that a segment that will be commissioned by this administration before the end of this administration. Okay, so like I said, 2, 3, and 4 constitute the coastal rail line, and we are looking for money for that. But because of the fact that this project was approved in 2012 by Federal Executive Council 2012, and with a clause that the financial component should be handled by the Federal Ministry of Finance, and to get this from China Exim Bank, we are almost 10 years, we are not seeing this happening. And for us to be able to execute this project, we had to start looking for other source of funding. And fortunately, Yapi Mackenzie, which is a Turkish company, responded. Yapi Mackenzie is a company. So Yapi Mackenzie is a Turkish company that is into rail projects, and they wrote to the country saying that they are interested in investing in infrastructure, and they are checking with the Standard Chartered Bank to provide the fund for the whole segment of the coastal rail line. So not just part of it, the whole of the coastal rail line. So going all the way from Lagos through Port Harcourt, Yanagwa, Benin, Onitsha, Warri, Benin, Warri, and Yanagwa, Onitsha. So they are in discussion with the Federal Ministry of Finance to provide the funding for the whole of the coastal rail line. So talking about the technical details of that, I would be needing my colleague from Finance to give this committee those details, because I do not have the details on the financial technicality. The Port Harcourt-Maiduguri with branch line to Yola and Damaturu, you didn't include it in your request to us, but we are bringing it up because it's one of the projects that has been approved by FEC, and for which we are also seeking loan to be able to execute that. Again, the loan is being arranged by CCCC through the Standard Chartered Bank because of the challenges that they have with the Chinese Exim Bank. So that is to the tune of $3,20,279,549 US. As we speak, a lot of back-end engineering work has started on the Port Harcourt-Maiduguri, which is mainly to rehabilitate the old narrow gauge with a branch line to Duse. Also arising from the letter referenced above, there was an addendum forwarded by Mr. President, still in respect of the 2018-2020 external borrowing plan. The project cost for Kanu Maradi standard gauge line with a branch line to Duse was put at $190,255,276. This varies from the actual cost of the project, which is actually $1,959,754,724 US. And also to note that we noticed a variation in the project segments on Lagos-Ibadan, talking about the extension from Apapa Port to Tinkan Island ports. The construction cost is actually $315,160,608 US$0.77, as against $225,120,000 US that is stated in the letter you sent to us. So with this, Honorable Chairman and distinguished members of this committee, we are saying that this is the true figures that we are looking for to be able to execute the rail projects ahead of us and to comfortably link virtually all the states in the country. Thank you very much.
I have 2 questions to ask you, madam. You said you are not using the loan that is approved to commence the work of Kano to Kaduna segment of the rail line. And already this House and FEC has given approval for 5 million or 5,533,289,310. So assuming you source another money to use in financing the Kano-Kaduna segment, if you happen to access this money, that means you only use it on Ibadan-Abuja segment. So what do you do with the excess? And how do you account for it? Secondly, you have said FEC has approved the going to another bank to get money to finance this coastal rail projects. But what we are having on our papers is Chinese Exim Bank. And if the House is convinced with your explanation, I think we are going to give this approval based on the bank that is written here. But we are very much aware, though unofficially, that China Exim Bank is no longer willing to finance this project. So after our approval, what will happen? Thank you very much.
Like I said earlier on, the 5.58 billion for Ibadan Kano was approved in the last borrowing plan of 2016-2018 by the National Assembly. But unfortunately, we have not received that money from China Exim Bank. And I think in the course of this meeting, the deputy chairman of this committee even brought to our attention the challenges that China Exim Bank is facing. So what do we do as a nation? Do we keep waiting endlessly for when we do not know when this loan is going to come? So the contractor who has a contract is Ctte, and so they have a contract in their hand that needs to be executed. And we engage them as a ministry to say, okay, if the money is not coming from China Exim Bank, you are the one to make arrangement for this. Would you want to look at other banks to see how you will finance this contract and get it executed? And they are in the process of doing that, but the Ibadan Kano that is left, what we actually have outstanding to be executed are 2 segments. That's Ibadan to Abuja, and then Kaduna to Kano. So Kaduna to Kano has a lower cost implication. It's just about 1.22 billion US dollars. And so because we have some budgetary provision talking about our own counterpart funding for this project, which is 15% of the project, we decided we might as well start the smaller segment with our budgetary provision. So if by the grace of God we are able to complete that segment with the fund, it saves Nigeria from borrowing, and we will deliver on at least that segment of the project, okay? While we allow Chinese Ctte to make arrangements for an alternative funding for the longer segment, which is Ibadan to Abuja. But at least we will gradually be connecting the country with rail services. So that is what we are waiting for. I believe that by the time we get there, we will definitely have to go back again to FEC to say, okay, the money from China Exim Bank that is supposed to be 5.5 billion is not what we need anymore. We'll be talking about 3 point something because Kaduna Kano would have been taken care of, okay? And then can we also go and get this money outside China Exim Bank? I'm sure that would come. Yes, approval has been given by the National Assembly. The loan has not been given to Nigeria. And so we can say we are not taking that anymore because time and exigencies of things have overtaken that event. So we won't be talking about SS in that segment. Then, okay, the question the chairman asks is if we are giving that money, what will it do with the SS, considering the fact that we're already starting on the Kaduna Kano? And so I just explained that the Kaduna Kano is a shorter segment that will cost less money, and we are trying to see if by the budgetary provision Federal Ministry of Transportation is given, we can actually handle that segment. So that segment will definitely be cut off from any loan that we are going to take. We'll just be zeroing in on the Ibadan, Abuja, which is what we are still hoping that CCECC will be able to get a loan to finance. And if they can't get that money from China Exim Bank, we have advised that they look at other alternatives of getting the money. And when we get to that stage, once they get people who are saying we're ready to finance that segment of the job, well, we definitely need to go back to Federal Executive Council to get the approval for that. And that will mean also coming back to the National Assembly to say that, okay, this has changed, the previous one needs to be cancelled, and then we'll be looking at something else with a different bank location. Right, okay. Okay, so the second segment of the question was on coastal rail. That I had said that Federal Executive Council has given an approval for us to look elsewhere for the loan. But right before this committee is saying that the Federal Executive Council, by extension, Mr. President, has said that this loan should be sourced from China Exim Bank. And so if approval is given, it will be China Exim Bank. So how do we talk about the fact that Yapi Mackenzie is coming into the picture? In the course of my presentation, I said something that for the technicality of this loan, Federal Ministry of Finance, we need to address this committee because I do not have the details. The approval is that this contract is awarded to CCECC. I mean, we went back to FEC to say that we have a bit of challenge here. The fund is not coming since 2012. We have European banks offering to finance this project, and Council gave that approval. But for Federal Ministry of Finance to look at the details of the proposal and have a financial closure. So my colleague from Federal Ministry of Finance will be in a better position to tell us exactly what is going on. Thank you.
Segment. Ordinarily, even if the loan is given to you, the federal government is supposed to finance 15%. So it is this 15% that is supposed to be counterpart funding from the federal government that you are now trying to use to start Kano Kaduna.
Yes, sir.
And if by any luck, the amount there is able to finish the program, so we are not using the project, so we are not using the loan.
For now, sir,
yes,
sir, for now, sir, that loan is still not available.
I understand.
Yes, sir. So we are using our own 15% budgetary provision to start.
Thank you very much. What is your observation?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Can somebody up this one? Good. Mr. Chair, we have heard the Permanent Secretary very, very well, and I think we have understood that. There's no ambiguity about it. But the problem is, our hands are tied, and it appears we are incapacitated to proceed with our legislative due diligence. Number one, we have a document, and the basis of the constitution of this meeting is by the instrumentality of the letter from the executive arm of government, which was referred to us. If we, that's the basis why we are considering China exim, China exim. Now, China exim, they are telling us, even when we did this exercise, it will be an exercise in futility. So, the issue is from there is my own observation after observing this lacuna, sir, so that we don't end up doing a job that we need to go back and come back again. So my own observation is that, suggestion out of this observation is that to be in tandem with our legislative activities, we put on hold to the issue regarding the coastal relief from 4 and above until they have finished the nitty-gritty between Minister of Transport, Minister of Finance, and the FEC. They have streamlined to know that, yes, we have gotten an offer. There is a closure. And then so that we have another instrumentality, withdrawing the China Exim Bank and then submitting that. That will be the basis of our consideration to approve or not. I so submit, Mr. Chair.
What I want to say here is that what the woman has said is the same thing with what he has said. It's a privileged information to us. They cannot do anything without coming back to us. She said they have given the contractor
In our executive session, we decided
until when this thing is clear
in the executive
with
session.
the agencies concerned. And what she is saying is even if we approve it as it is, she will still go back and do the needful and still come back and seek for the approval. So they are saying the same thing. There's no big problem.
Chairman, how do we know how long, sir?
If you don't work on it, can you be able to know what you are doing?
Observation.
Oh, no.
List carefully as presented by the permanent secretary. Our question, or the answer to the question, or the clearance she's giving is that item 1, 2, and 3 are under Exim Bank. Yes. Item 4, from Benin City to Warri, Yenegua, is on, no, China Development. It's a different bank. Yes. It doesn't matter. It's everything. Don't know China. It's a different bank.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So when we are considering, that's why I said that is when we get insight on our private, when we want to decide on the session what to approve, we will now. Then item number 5 is Industrial and Commercial Bank of China. It's a different bank. Yes. So we look at what we will pick officially what we will approve when we get inside house, yes. Not in this open. Yes. We listen to them, get our facts. What we will approve is what when we go inside, we will now authorize what we can and give reasons for approving this. Then I have a clear observation to make on our project from Kanu to Maradi. You mentioned, yes, you mentioned one. Some of the funding agencies, European Bank, do you understand? European Group Consortium, just is helping us. Are they starting? Yeah, they are doing Kanu Maradi. Do you understand?
Are you asking whether the contract is awarded?
The contract is awarded already now. It's awarded by FEC everybody. The funding you are looking for, because you put, there are 2 segments. Are we borrowing 190? Are we borrowing 1.959? And the funding, you know, is going to come in euros, not in dollars.
No, it's actually in dollars.
Okay, it's in dollars.
It's in dollars. That project costs is the 1.959 US dollars. So for us, we don't know where 190 came from, 190,000 came from. So that is why we're just trying to point it out that the total cost for that project is 1.959 billion US dollars.
And request for approval is how much?
What the letter said, the letter that was communicated to us said Kano Maradi Standard Gauge with branch to Duse, 190,255,276 US dollars.
Is it the
So
branch to Duse?
that is what I'm thinking, that
is it
this
the
may
1.9?
just be the branch to Duse, but the total cost of the project, including that branch to Duse, is $1.959.
That's my question is that, what are you asking for approval? Is it 1.959?
The total cost, 1.959.
Madam, let me help you. There is a lacuna there you are not aware of.
Okay, sir.
Because there is no person there. Initially, the president sent a request for us on that project of amounting to 1.959,744,722 US dollars.
Which has been approved.
It's the addendum, no, we didn't approve it. In the addendum request that was sent still by the president, an additional money was asked for that same project to be added to this.
1.8. Okay.
Let me see. No, this is the initial.
That this online mode, I can see that we are having an enhancement request here. Request for additional funding for Lagos Ibadan Railway Realization Project. That is, we want to have construct a branch from, I want to take an island. First of all, permit me, Mr. Chairman, to commend your ministry or Nigeria on the Lagos Ibadan Railway Project. I have commuted on that. It was fantastic. Congratulations, the Minister of Transportation. Now, but if you are requesting for additional funding to have a branch line to Tinkan and Island, you all remember for Idogo railway line. For Idogo railway line, you know that Idogo is purely an agrarian area where food items are transported to Lagos. And if we are talking about food security in Nigeria, and President Muhammadu Buhari has said that we should produce what we consume, we must take the issue of food security very serious. In that Idogo, that's where we have all food items that are wasting because of transmission to the market. But if you are able to at least have the rail from Ifo to Idogo, I think the rail has been there for long. That's why we have Okodogo. I don't know if you understand Okodogo, because it picks materials from Ifo, Ilaro, and other places. Can we just take it back to your office to see how we can put that in our plan to extend that Lagos-Ibadan railway line in addition to the other place? Thank you very much.
On the request for Lagos-Ibadan and Kano Maradi, if you look at the column under the, as per the request of the request for the loan, is the true amount stated there are totally far below the contract cost on the contract column. So I want you to please explain why we have these discrepancies. Why are you giving a contract cost that's far higher than the amount requested for on these two projects in the last page? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Honorable sir, the chairman pointed to our attention that the cost of the project, which is 1.959 of $190,255,276 on the Kano Maradi project. And I answered by saying I know the cost of this project, which has been awarded by FEC, is $1.959 billion US, and that this addendum coming may be coming from Federal Ministry of Finance in the course of negotiation of the loans. So finance will be in a better position to address that. It is not coming from transportation. So if you will allow me, let me just answer the other set of questions. My apologies to Honorable from Ogun State that the documents we sent were just endorsed and not signed. Okay, the second one is Ifon Idogo Railway. Okay, the second one. Yes. Okay, sir, like I said, sir, I think this committee will be better guided when you interface with Federal Ministry of Finance. I mean, for us as a project office, ours is to look at the cost of the project and get approval by FEC, but the financial closure is usually done by Federal Ministry of Finance. I know that the cost of that project, the extension from Apapa Port to Tinkan Island, is 315,160,608.77 cents. So for the figure to be coming as 225, remember, sir, this was sent at an addendum. So I will still say that finance, we need to clarify to us what is going on. So is it possible that there has been a formal approval of the initial one that we are not yet aware of, and this is sent as an addendum? I think we get a clarity when we speak to finance. Thank you. Sorry, talked about the endorsement. It was endorsed by the Director of Finance, so it's our document. So I apologize for that. What are the security measures we are putting in place to secure our rail lines? The peculiarity of what we see on the field is quite enormous. It's in Nigeria that we had to get custom-made boats to secure our rail line. So the boats we have on our rail line is not the conventional one, because in the cost of construction, we realized that people were even going to loosen the sleepers. And so we had to ask CCECC to make customized boats to secure the sleepers. So what did they do next? Since they cannot unboat those boats, they started cutting the sleepers. So what do? It's a huge security problem. We try to fence all our rail corridor, which becomes very expensive just to shake people away from the rail. We also talk about using acoustic and digital surveillance. I know that a memo is already waiting for FEC to take on Kaduna, Abuja right now, talking about digital surveillance and using acoustic technology to secure the rail track. So we are aware of the challenges. We're trying to make sure that every rail track is secured. But beyond that, what we do physically is that along our routes, we use the villagers, we use the NRC workers. So they have segments that people have to survey every day. Remember, we have the police force for the railway, and we also have the security, National Civil Defense. So there's a lot of physical surveillance that goes on along the track. But in addition to that, we are also trying to make sure that we employ technology. These are quite expensive, but in the situation in which we are, we have to do it. Before the explosion that happened last week, There were attempted explosions that the surveillance team were able to detonate before this eventually happened. So much as you try, we hope that the Lord will help us secure the situation that we have with security in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Just taking aback that a project that is concentralized by your ministry, or you are the originating project, and where there is addition, are you saying that a representative of your ministry is never always at the point the finance ministry is negotiating?
Last month, and the cabins, there were nothing to write home about. I was supposed to be on the VIP, and the seats, they were smelling of sweat. I could see dirt on the floor. I could see vomit on the floor. And we are spending so much money to get these things going. What are we going to do for maintenance to make sure that these things operate to the best Western practice?
Federal Ministry of Transport is not part of the fund negotiation. Well, the way it goes is that it goes from DMO to finance. So at the point where the debt management office is talking, we are part of it. But in terms of the technicality of funding, I don't think an engineer has that vast knowledge. And so finance is acting for the good of this country. They know the technical terms, they know what to look out for. And so we are only there, you don't understand what they are talking about. That's the truth about it. So we are there, but do you understand what they are talking about? Not exactly, except you have an accounting background. So they are the ones to address that. For the Abuja-Kaduna cabin, Honorables, I apologize. Realize that this is probably our oldest route, and maybe you use one of the old coaches that day. No, I said maybe. I'm only saying maybe. I'm only saying maybe because we have new coaches that were probably even released this year as part of the rolling stock. Yes, as part of the rolling stock. But in terms of maintenance, we know that this is something we need to do. We have a bill before the National Assembly because we realize that Nigeria Railway Corporation, as it is today, would not be able to run our railways completely. And so we have a bill that is trying to look at the NRC Act, to review it, to allow us fragment NRC into 4 segments. The minute we do that, we have the operation, we have regulatory, we have marketing, and then we can be talking about running these rail services efficiently. And we are going to do it more like a PPP arrangement so that we'll also be able to get back money to pay back these loans that we are taking. I'm sure you are aware that we've opened an escrow account with CBN, and so on the Abuja-Kaduna that we already have the e-ticketing going on, we can tell you real time what we are making on that route. And of course, money is being put into the escrow account. The minute we also deploy the electronic payment on Itakpe, Warri, Ibadan, Lagos, because the procurement process is already online. I mean, the EOI has been released yesterday. Then we can be sure that we are looking in the right direction. So I want to plead with this honorable committee to assist us to make sure that the NRC Act comes out fast for us to be able to do anything. Thank you very much. Good narrow gauge, sir. And yes, thank you, sir.
At this juncture, I want to use this opportunity to tell you happy birthday. I know today is your birthday.
Thank you, sir.
We are here to make presentation from the Federal Ministry of Health in respect of the 2018-2020 external borrowing plan as it affects the health sector. We have about 5 components that I'm going to talk about. Under number 1, we have the Accelerating Nutrition Result in Nigeria project. which is a World Bank loan of $225 million US. And it is being implemented by okay. Thank you, Honorable Chairman. And it is being implemented by the Federal Ministry of Health, National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, and the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. Honorable Chairman, after I finish the presentation, okay, let me just go ahead. Under number 2, we have the multi-phase programmatic approach, immunization plus and malaria progress by accelerating coverage and transformation service, which is the U.S. Impact Project, and it is a $650 million loan project, comprising of $200 million for malaria project and $450 US for immunization program. Then the third project is we have the Nigeria COVID-19 Preparedness and Response Project, called REP1, which is a $100 million US loan. And then under REP 2, we have $400 million US additional facility. And the fourth one is the malaria project under the Islamic Development Bank, which is also a $90 million US loan component, and which is being implemented by the National Malaria Elimination Program. Distinguished chair and members of this committee, I have with my team the Director General of the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, and also the Executive Director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, which are also the implementing partners, so that they can provide technical details of what the loan is all entails in terms of effective date, level of utilization, impact, procurement, financing agreement for the program. With your kind permission, Honorable Chair, if you needed additional information, I'll ask them to comment further. Thank you. Yeah. So,
Honorable Chair, I'm the new Director General for the NCDC. Actually, it's only my second day in office, but it's a pleasure to be here. So, to address specifically the co-prep, Honorable Chair and members, the co-prep is the COVID-19 Preparedness and Response Project, which is in two parts. So the first part was for the amount of $100 million under the 2018 to 2020 external borrowing plan. And then there is the second part, which is the additional funding request for $400 million, which I will give some more details about now. So speaking about the first part, it had two components, and the first component is an unchanged amount of $14.3 million, which was supposed to cover federal support and procurement for COVID-19 emergency preparedness and response. So this is not changed from between the COPREP 1 and COPREP 2 applications. The second component of that was originally $90 million that was requested for direct support to the states for COVID-19 emergency preparedness and response, but this has now been scaled down to $56.5 million, and I will explain the reason why. The excess amount now has been moved to be part of the COPREP 2 application. So specifically for the larger amount of $400 million, this is entirely for COVID vaccine acquisition. So majority of that, almost $360 million is meant to fund COVID-19 vaccines
and the related costs from the AVAT. As you know, the AVAT is the African Union Vaccine Acquisition Trust, and that's supposed to provide vaccines to cover about 18% of the population, as well as allow us to fund all the associated costs with that. The second part of that, this additional request is also for $76 million to fund COVID-19 vaccine deployment, which will be used for the vaccines that are received through COVAX and donations from the government of India and the United States as well. And it is for this deployment that the balance of funds that I talked about from the state's response is added to this component to fund the COVID vaccine deployment. I think the other thing to ask is, although I'm presenting here as the NCDC speaking about the contribution to this loan request, all of the things that are related to vaccines, acquisition and delivery will be handled by our sister agency that is mandated by law to take care of that, the MPH-CDA. So thank you very much, Honorable Chair and members.
$100 million we borrowed for corporate, and the last 400. You said that about 350 is for actual purchase of vaccines, and 76 is for distribution to the last mile. Is that what you mentioned here? But if you put 76 plus 350, it's way above the 400.
Yes, sir. Just to clarify, 357.5 million for vaccine acquisition.
7.5.
Yes.
And
76 million for vaccine deployment. That comes to a total.
Mile.
Yes, that comes to a total of 433.5 million.
Sure.
But as I said before that, that extra sum of 33.5 million is actually coming from the previous request of 90 million that was made for direct support to the states. Because there is some domestic funding available to cover some of the costs, so that 33 million has been taken away from that request to support vaccine distribution. So that's why it looks like it's more than 400 million. But the total additional ask is actually 400 million. It's just that from the previous request, we have, yes.
Finally.
Yes, yes.
Finally.
Yes. Thank you.
We know that when AIDS come, we get higher, much more less than the value of the AIDS we are getting. Are there plans for us to begin to manufacture vaccines locally? Because when we import, there's a whole lot of cost with the cost of importation, all those so many things. If we have facility, not only is it going to serve us, to serve SSA, Sub-Saharan Africa. So we need to, as a large country, put infrastructure in place that will help us. I know it's not directly under it, but under the Ministry of Health, if I'm saying. Let us develop a clear model where we can begin to manufacture vaccines locally, not only about COVID, but across the chain of vaccines that are required, so that we can leverage on the capacity we have and our size to support Sub-Saharan Africa, instead of going to India to be importing vaccines. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Totaling US $900 million launched in April this year. How much of this amount is for malaria component among this total amount? And if we have a component that's meant for malaria, why do we need another 200 million malaria vaccines again? Then the second leg of the question is, can you give us an insight, highlight of how much you have received so far under corporate? And let us have an impact assessment and what this next round of a request will address. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I need your attention. I need your attention. Yes. Yes, I need your attention in this question. Mr. Chairman, it has to do with NCDC and the issue of the COVID-19 test as a requirement for travelers. Mr. Chairman, this is a problem, and I'm taking a rider from my colleague who talked about the funding, what are the expenditure, the monies received from foreign donors, their budget, total budget that we have before us, what they are using it for. And Mr. Chairman, I'm talking from experience. If you travel to the United States, for instance, I don't know about Europe, UK in Europe or other European countries. The country, American government, makes the test, the COVID test, even the vaccine, free, just as in Nigeria. The test free for citizens, except those who are in a hurry to get it under 24 hours. We can now go to those other emergency centers to get tested, and then you pay a fee. Now in Nigeria, now when you get into the United States of America with your COVID-19 test, which is verified at your carrier, your flight carrier, and of course at the port of entry, nobody harasses you. You go straight to your destination. Then, but before you come back to Nigeria, you get tested and you need that card. Here in Nigeria, you go for test, you pay 39,500 naira. Upon a return to Nigeria, you are also made to pay another 39,500 naira. So it has become a business for the registered or accredited laboratories in Nigeria to make money. So NCDC is a regulatory body that is helping the government, and of course the citizens. So why, under their watch, would they allow laboratories to extort? I use the word extort, I'm sorry, because it's extortion. I go into America, nobody asks me to quarantine for 7 days and then get tested again. But I come into Nigeria. For instance, there is a friend who just came back last week, 2 Saturdays ago. He's to be tested and he's going back again. So he's going to get tested again. In the lap of 2 weeks, he's getting tested twice because it's a requirement. So what is NCDC doing in terms of making sure that their practice is also something that is comparable to what we have, even from the foreign countries where you are comparing what you are doing in Nigeria as well as in the foreign countries. So it's a concern because it's not everybody who is traveling and coming back that can be able to afford this round of payment here, there, and then come back again and you pay in Nigeria. So is there any way we can make this payment if you get tested and then you travel and then you come back, as long as you quarantine and you don't force people to get tested again after 7 days? So it's my question. What are you doing? Because it has become a business. That's my question, Mr. Chairman. Yes, for laboratories in Nigeria.
That we should look at ways of providing these vaccines ourselves. And I come from the academia. I was pro-chancellor and chairman of council of a university. And some of these universities they have the capacity and they have the capability. What they need is serious, and Nigeria needs to be very serious. This vaccine, when I took it, I didn't look at it, but somebody told me that the AstraZeneca we are taking here, something is written there that is not to be taken in Europe. I don't know whether you have to cross-check that. If that is true, then we have to have a reason for that. Then, so I want to ask you, are there institutions that you people have designated to start thinking about these things? Because this one, when you look at America, they're already thinking of the next pandemic. Because it will come and come and come. They will still come. So what is Nigeria doing? Let us not shame our country. Africa was looking towards Nigeria to, 822 professors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You are the one that sponsored that motion in the House. And I can assure you that immediately afterwards, the ministry commenced the necessary procedure to make sure that huge amount of resources that we are taking on loan is saved through manufacturing of local vaccine. And that is what actually, lead the ministry to enter into a partnership agreement with May and Baker to form the Bio Vaccine Limited. And I can proudly inform members of this committee. And this is the reason why the Honorable Minister is not actually on ground now, because he has attended the World Health Assembly Summit in Berlin so that he can also interface with vaccine manufacturers and also sought for support from the European Union in order to enable Nigeria to start manufacturing vaccine. We are all aware that, in terms of population, resources, market, there's a huge potential in Nigeria. However, other countries in Africa are taking advantage of that because of our lack of capacity. And after realizing that, I think that was what actually prompted, because I believe the initiations started from here, and we have taken the lead now. So we are hoping that in the near future, this country will start manufacturing vaccine very soon. And we are only actually targeting not just Nigeria, but the whole of African market, so that, like I said, savings can be made in terms of human resources, in terms of, resources for purchasing of vaccine. On the issue of the malaria loan that you asked, $290 million. I want to inform you that, this malaria component of loan is grossly inadequate because we know the adverse reaction that we are having from malaria, from scourge of malaria, particularly in Nigeria. Presently, there are 13 states in Nigeria with about 300 and something million local governments that are not covered under the malaria control program. So this loan segment is actually meant to address that shortfall among the 13 states. But with your kind permission too, I will ask the coordinator of the National Malaria Elimination Program to shed more light on it. In terms of protocol for travels, Honorable Chair, that is a matter of protocol approved by the federal government of Nigeria based on the recommendation of the Presidential Steering Committee. And I think it's applicable everywhere. Just like the Honorable Minister said, the procedure is that, if you want to go and do COVID test and wait for the result to come out in 3 days to 1 week, it's free of charge everywhere. But for travel purposes, because they needed the result not more than 24 or 72 hours before travel, so people have to actually go and pay for the money. And it's applicable everywhere, not just in Nigeria, because even in Nigeria, I think our own is the cheapest because we all experience it in other places. But I'll also ask the Director of Public Health to shed more light on it.
No, we're okay with that.
Okay. Thank you so much. So if you need further clarification, then we can ask them. If not, then we can ask the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency also to talk. Thank you.
Second one is, what is the level of interaction between NCDC and the state?
Thanks, sir. Thank you. In Oxford, in UK, and they give franchise to Serum Institute of India to produce Covishield. The one that comes from Serum Institute, just to distinguish it from the one from their factory in Oxford, is called Covishield. But the two are same quality, same effect, and there is it's not written that it should not be taken in UK. And that is why the UK government gave clearance to the AstraZeneca that is being given in Nigeria. It's being cleared since on the 11th of October, is accepted in UK. So they are the same quality and no restriction, the chair, sir.
Honorable Chairman, there was a question about whether the loan has been, COPREP 1 has been drawn. Nothing has been drawn because we are waiting for approval. For the loan to enhance capacity for us to help states respond to COVID like we currently do.
Mr. Chair, sir, it's a credit to the states. There are 12 states that will benefit from that, and 7 of them have already paid their counterpart funding of about 100,000. So it's the state government that will refund. It's a loan for them, and they will refund it.
Okay. Do you have any clear program? Because COVID is real, and we can see adverts, but there are means and better ways of driving it, having ambassadors who help to educate and enlighten people. However, the new DG, congratulations for your appointment.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Deputy and colleagues.
Introduction.